So good morning or good afternoon, depending on your class period. We're starting a new lesson today. We're going to be looking at simplifying radicals. So before we get into that, we're going to go over some vocabulary, okay? So, a radical expression, an expression that contains a radical sign or a square root sign. So it's anything that contains that, okay? That's a square root sign. That's a radical expression. So what is a perfect square? Do you remember what a perfect square is? A perfect square is a number multiplied by itself. So an example of a perfect square would be 25, because 5 times 5 gives you 25, right? Another one would be 16, because 4 times 4 gives you 16. Another one is 100, because 10 times 10 gives you 100. Okay, so those are some examples of perfect squares. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how to simplify radical. We're going to do this example here. There's some instructions here if you need them. But we're going to do this example here, and then we're going to do some other ones, and then you're going to try to. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this one, so just pay close attention, write it down, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is take out your calculator and type in the square root of 84. So you do second square root 84. Enter. That's not a perfect square, right? Because it gives you all those decimals. So it's not a perfect square. So we're going to have to simplify this longhand. So how we do that is you're going to go through the prime numbers. Prime numbers are numbers that can only be divided by themselves and 1. So 2, 3, 7, 11, 13, 17, and so on, okay? These are all prime numbers. So we're going to take 84 and start at the top of the list. Can 84 be divided by 2? With what? Do 84 divided by 2 in your calculator. 42. Okay, and then we circle our prime number. Okay? So the next step, can 42 be divided by 2? With what? 21. Circle your prime number. Can 21 be divided by 2? No. What about, not 2, what about 3? 3 and what? 7. Now we circle our prime numbers. 3 is a prime number, and so is 7. Okay? So those are your two prime numbers. So now that everything's circled, we're done here. So we're going to draw the square root sign, but instead of putting 84 inside, we're going to put 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. Okay? 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. And if you want to double check that, type that in your calculator. 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. It's 84. Okay? So it's the same thing. We've just reduced it down. So now from here, you need to find your pairs. There's 2 2's here, so you circle those pairs. And you pull out a 2. Okay? Because 2 times 2 is what? 4. And the square root of 4 is 2. Okay? So that's why the 2 times 2 we can pull out as a 2. All right? So now we have here 2 on the outside, right? Because we pulled that 2 out. Square root of 3 times 7. Okay? There's no more pairs in here. So what is 3 times 7? So we have 2 square root 21. Okay? So now take your calculator. Type in 2 square root 21. So 2 second square root. Whoops, that wasn't square root. 2 second square root 21. Hit enter and see if it's the same thing as when we did the square root of 84. It is, right? So that means that we simplified it correctly because they're equal. All right, so now turn your paper over. How this worksheet is set up is I do one, and then you do one to the side. Okay? So we're going to start off with number 1, the square root of 169. Let's type that in first. Square root of 169. 13. Well, yes, that's a perfect square, so we're done here. Okay. So now pause your video and do the one to the side. Let's look at number 2. So let's type this in. What was it? 3 square root 25? Whoops. 3 square root 25. 15. Okay? Now let's look at why this was 15. Because we have 3 here, right? Times, what's the square root of 25? 5. So 3 times 5 is 15. Okay? So now pause your video and do the one to the side. Let's look at number 3. So 5 square root of 8. Let's type it in and see if we can do that one. 5 square root of 8. Did it work? No. So we're going to have to simplify this longhand, right? So here we go. 5 square root of 8. Can 8 be divided by 2? With what? 4. And then we circle our prime number. Can 4 be divided by 2? And 2. Circle your prime numbers. Okay? So now we have 5 square root of 2 times 2 times 2. Okay? Let's find our pairs. Here's 2 2's here, so we pull it out. So now we have 5 times this 2, and then what's left inside? 1 2. What is 5 times 2? 10. And then we have our square root of 2. Okay, so let's check our answer here. 5 square root of 8, let's see if it's the same thing as 10 square root of 2. Is it? Yes, they're equal, so we're good. So now pause your video and do the one to the side. Okay, number 4. Number 4. Let's rewrite this as a negative 1 square root of 48. Okay, because there's an invisible negative 1 here, right? Let's type this in and see if it works. Negative 1 square root of 48. Nope, it doesn't work. So we have to simplify it. So we have 48. Can 48 be divided by 2? With 24. Circle your prime number. Can 24 be divided by 2? Yes, with what? 12. Can 12 be divided by 2? Yes, with what? 6. Can 6 be divided by 2? With 3. And those are both prime numbers. So now we're going to rewrite this. Negative 1 square root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Okay, what's our next step here? Circle your pairs. So there's a pair of 2's here and a pair of 2's here. So now we have negative 1 times 2 times 2, and what's left inside? The 3. What's negative 1 times 2 times 2? Negative 1 times 2 times 2 is negative 4. And then we have our square root of 3. So let's double check and make sure that's the answer. So negative 4 square root, oops, it didn't do it. Negative 4, why is it not? Oh, there you go. Square root of 3. And it's the same thing, so we did it correctly. Now pause the video and do the one to the side. So let's look at number 5. Now when you see ones like number 5, the square root of 144 over 25, that's the same thing as saying the square root of 144 over the square root of 25. Okay, that's the same thing. So what is the square root of 144? 12. And what is the square root of 25? 5. Let's be sure that's fully simplified. So 12 over 5. Math, enter. 12 over 5. So it is completely simplified, and that is your answer. Okay? Now pause your video and do the one to the side. All right, last one, number 6. Remember, the square root of 32 over 64 is the same thing as saying the square root of 32 over the square root of 64. Okay, let's try it. What's the square root of 32? Ooh, it didn't work. Okay, so we have to simplify this. So we take 32. Can 32 be divided by 2? Yes, with what? 16. Circle your prime number. Can 16 be divided by 2? Yes, with what? 8. Circle your prime number. Can 8 be divided by 2? Yes, with what? 4. Circle your prime number. And can be 4 to be divided by 2? Yes, 2 and 2. Circle your prime numbers. So instead of the square root of 32, we have the square root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, what's our next step here? Circle the pairs. So on the outside now, we have 2 times 2, and what's left on the inside? 1, 2. So what's 2 times 2? 4, square root of 2. So let's double check it and be sure we simplified it correctly. 4, square root of 2. Same thing, so we're good. So, so here, instead of the square root of 32, we have 4 square root of 2. Now, what's the square root of 64? Let's type it in. Square root of 64 is 8. Now, you would think that this is done, but you have one more step. You have to simplify these whole numbers. So 4 over 8 divided by 8. Okay, it's 0.5. Math, enter, is 1/2. Okay? So it could be 1 square root of 2 over 2. But we usually don't write that 1, so the answer is just the square root of 2 over 2. Okay? Now, you're going to do that last problem on your own. Reference here if you need any help. Please be sure to come and check your answers over with me before you turn it in. Good luck, guys.